I'm Stacy Eakman. Welcome to Alair Homes, Kirkland. I grew up in construction with my dad. He had a small remodel company over in Eastern Washington. Dad always taught me how to build things, and I learned from him how to do that, and I had some passion for building things. What really made me want to scale the business and have bigger aspirations was I really wanted to hire my mom. She got laid off from her job that really meant a lot to her, and she was just so sad about losing that job. That triggered me to call another builder friend of mine and say, hey, how big did you have to be before it made sense to hire a bookkeeper? And, you know, he told me that he had 2 employees and multiple jobs going at the same time, and so that inspired me to figure out how to make that happen. The first 5 years I was in business, my office was in Seattle. But as I started to grow up and realize what type of projects I wanted to do and the type of houses we wanted to build, I just realized that the east side is really where that opportunity was. We still build beautiful homes in Seattle and West Seattle and all the way down to Tacoma and up into Shoreline. We build them everywhere, but I chose this city or town specifically because we really want to build all the houses in Kirkland. There's a few really good neighborhoods right here in Kirkland. There's East Market, which is where the Kirkland Dream House is, and you know there's Western Market, which we've built a couple of houses over there in the last few years as well. And there's just not that many lots left that have a house that you can justify tearing down to build a new one on. But the ones that are available and that are out there, we really want to build those houses because they're all beautiful lots. So we've been operating as Eakman Construction since 2012. So we were in business for about 10 years before I made the transition to join Alair Homes. It took a few years of talking to them and discussing with them. The deciding factor for me to make that change was I really want to change the way people feel about residential construction companies. And I want to do that on a big scale. Dad was so honest and salt of the earth. Even his clients, I remember it when I was a kid, like they would think he was charging too much or was taking advantage of them. And what I know of my dad is like, absolutely not. He couldn't, if he wanted to, he couldn't make himself do it. And that made me realize that construction companies have kind of a bad name for themselves. And that resonated with me, that how do we change that? The challenge with that is that when you build 10 or 12 houses a year, I mean, I could work for 100 years and it's 1,200 clients. That doesn't do it as a community. Like, how do we change that on a big scale? We need to standardize the process. With Alair, we have 107 offices in North America. We do it the same way at every office. And I believe that residential construction is really the only industry left that doesn't have a standard process. You can build 3 houses with 3 different contractors, and it's a totally different experience. So how do we standardize that? We do the same trainings, we use the same software. You know, we take a lot of pride in that software and how we track everything and manage everything.